The massive Imperial scanning vessel hung silently in the darkness of space, its sensors sweeping the edges of unexplored territory. Commander Thomas stood at the observation window of the hidden lunar base, watching as the alien ship moved closer to Earth's orbit. 20 years of preparing for this moment. And still, his heart pounded in his chest. "They've detected our civilian satellites," reported Officer Mike from his station. "Just as planned, they're only picking up our public space presence." The room remained quiet as dozens of military personnel monitored their screens. Humanity had known about the Empire for decades, ever since a damaged scout ship crashed in the Arctic. The recovery of that vessel had changed everything, leading to the creation of the Secret Space Defense Initiative, SSDI. The Imperial ship's scanners swept across Earth's surface, collecting data about population centers, technology levels, and military capabilities. But they only saw what humanity wanted them to see. "Sir," called out Officer Lisa, "they're sending a signal planet-side. It's being directed at our major communications networks." The large screen at the front of the command center flickered to life. A tall, humanoid figure appeared, its purple skin and elaborate uniform marking it as a high-ranking Imperial official. "People of Earth," the alien spoke in perfect English, thanks to their universal translators. "I am Grand Admiral Reed of the Galactic Empire. We have been observing your civilization and have deemed you worthy of integration into our grand society." Thomas almost smiled at the condescending tone. The Empire had no idea that humans had already cracked their encryption codes, understood their technology, and prepared countermeasures for every standard Imperial combat strategy. The alien continued, "Your technological development is impressive for a primitive species. We offer you the opportunity to join us peacefully. Resistance would be unfortunate." The threat hung in the air, but nobody in the command center showed fear. Behind the moon's dark side, hundreds of advanced human warships lay hidden, their stealth systems making them invisible even to Imperial scanners. "Look at their ship configurations," said Mike, pointing to his screen. "They're not even running their shields at full power. They think we're helpless." Thomas nodded. The Empire's arrogance would be their downfall. They saw Earth as just another primitive world to absorb into their massive territory. They had no idea that humans had been building up their forces, developing hybrid technologies that combined Imperial tech with human innovation. The command center's eye assistant, Delta, spoke up. "Analysis complete. Their scanning systems are operating at minimum power. They haven't detected any of our defense installations or the lunar base." "What about the fleet?" Thomas asked. "All ships remain undetected, sir. The stealth systems are working perfectly." The Imperial message continued playing, listing the benefits of surrendering to Empire rule. Thomas thought about the crashed ship that had started it all, about the years spent reverse engineering its technology, about the thousands of men and women who had worked in secret to prepare Earth for this day. "Send word to all SSDI bases," Thomas ordered. "Maintain radio silence. Let them think their intimidation is working." He turned to his second-in-command. "What's the status of Project Thunderbolt?" "All systems ready, sir. The moment they make an aggressive move, we can have 500 ships deployed within minutes." The Imperial vessel adjusted its position, trying to look impressive against Earth's backdrop. They had no idea that their every movement was being tracked by dozens of hidden sensor arrays. "Sir," Lisa called out, "they're requesting a response from Earth's leaders within 48 hours. Thomas nodded. "Right on schedule. Send word to the UN Security Council. Tell them to proceed with Protocol 7. Protocol 7 was simple. Act scared. Act primitive. Let the Empire think they had the upper hand while the real forces remained hidden." As Thomas watched the Imperial ship through the reinforced windows, he couldn't help but feel a mix of anticipation and pride. Humanity had spent years preparing for this moment, developing technologies the Empire couldn't imagine. Soon, they would learn that humans weren't the helpless primitives they appeared to be. The Empire's first mistake was assuming Earth would be an easy conquest. Their second mistake would be trying to prove it. The United Nations Security Council chamber buzzed with tension as world leaders watched the Imperial message replay on the massive screen. The alien's purple face loomed over them, its threat clear: submit or face destruction. President James leaned forward in his chair, his expression grim. The Empire expects us to roll over and beg. They want us to give up our planet without a fight. The room was packed with more than just politicians. Hidden military commanders from the secret Space Defense Initiative sat among them, their presence known only to a select few. General Robert cleared his throat. It's time to reveal what we've been building. He pressed a button on his tablet, and the room's lights dimmed. A hologram appeared above the center table, showing Earth's true military might. Gasps filled the chamber as three-dimensional images of massive warships appeared, rotating slowly in the air. These weren't the simple satellites and space stations the Empire had detected. These were weapons of war, built with recovered alien technology and human ingenuity. For 20 years, General Robert continued, we've been preparing. The crashed Imperial ship gave us everything we needed. Their tech, their tactics, their weaknesses. The Chinese representative stood up. How did you keep this hidden for so long? Underground bases in every major nation, Robert replied. Shipyards built inside mountains, beneath oceans, hidden in plain sight. The Empire's scanners can't penetrate our stealth shielding. The hologram changed, showing the true scale of humanity's fleet. Hundreds of ships, each carrying weapons that could match or exceed Imperial firepower. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They expect us to respond within 24 hours, President James said. They expect us to surrender. General Robert nodded. That's exactly what we want them to think. Our ships are better than theirs in every way. We've had years to study their technology, improve it, adapt it to human thinking. The Russian president spoke next. What about their numbers? The Empire must have thousands of ships. They do, Robert confirmed, but they're spread thin across their territory. The fleet they'll send to pacify us will be small. They think they only need a handful of ships to conquer Earth. The hologram changed again, showing tactical simulations. Earth's hidden fleet moving into position, weapon systems activating, stealth fields ready. We've run thousands of battle simulations, Robert explained. Our AI systems have analyzed every recorded Imperial battle tactic. We know how they think, how they fight. They don't know anything about us. The UN Secretary General stood up. Then we are agreed. We reject their demands. Heads nodded around the room. There was no fear in their eyes now, only determination. President James touched his tablet, and a document appeared on everyone's screens. This is our response to the Empire. Study it carefully. We need to sound afraid, primitive, but also defiant. Make them think we're refusing out of ignorance, not strength. The next hour was spent crafting the perfect message. It needed to provoke the Empire just enough to send a small fleet, but not enough to bring their full might down on Earth immediately. As the final words were agreed upon, General Robert received a message on his secure communicator. He smiled slightly before addressing the room. Our lunar base reports the Imperial ship is getting impatient. They're making small aggressive movements, trying to intimidate us. He paused. They have no idea they're being watched by 100 hidden weapons platforms. President James stood up, his voice firm. Send the message. Let's show the Empire that humanity won't bow to threats. He looked around the room. But remember, we must appear weak until the right moment. Let them come to us thinking victory is certain. The response was transmitted to the Imperial vessel. Now the waiting would begin. Earth's fleet remained hidden, its weapons silent, its true strength concealed behind a mask of primitive technology. The Empire would learn soon enough that they had made a terrible mistake in threatening humanity. But first, they had to take the bait. Space lit up with the bright flashes of Imperial ships dropping out of faster-than-light travel. Just as predicted, they had sent a small subjugation fleet. 12 warships arranged in standard Imperial attack formation. In the Lunar Command Center, Commander Thomas watched the enemy approach. "Typical Imperial arrogance," he muttered. They didn't even bother with a full battle group. The Imperial ships moved with perfect precision, their formation designed to intimidate primitive species. Their weapons powered up, a show of force meant to frighten Earth into immediate surrender. "Enemy ships are broadcasting," Officer Lisa announced. Plain message. The Imperial commander's voice filled the command center. "Your defiance is noted and rejected. You have one final chance to surrender before we demonstrate our power." Thomas pressed a button on his command chair. "All stations, prepare for Operation Thunderclap. Remember your training. Let them fire first." The Imperial ships spread out, taking position around Earth's orbital paths. They targeted the most visible symbols of human space presence: the International Space Station, communication satellites, and weather monitoring platforms. "Sir," Mike called out, "they're charging weapons." "Hold position," Thomas ordered. "Wait for it." The first Imperial blast struck a defunct satellite, destroying it completely. They were starting small, demonstrating their power gradually to break Earth's spirit. Thomas smiled. Now, across Earth's orbit, hidden defense platforms suddenly shimmered into view. Before the Imperial ships could react, energy shields far more advanced than their own snapped into place around Earth's vital installations. "What?" The Imperial commander's shocked voice came through. "Impossible." "Launch fighters," Thomas ordered. From concealed bays around the moon, hundreds of small craft emerged. Each one was piloted by a unique combination of human and AI, creating a fighting force unlike anything the Empire had encountered. The Imperial ships tried to adjust their formation, but they were too slow. Human fighters moved with unpredictable patterns, their hybrid pilots making decisions that confused Imperial targeting systems. "First wave, engage," Thomas commanded. "Show them what humanity can do." The human fighters struck with devastating precision. Their weapons, based on Imperial technology, but enhanced by human innovation, cut through enemy shields like they weren't even there. "Sir," Mike shouted excitedly, "their shields are calibrated for standard Imperial weapons. They can't handle our modifications." The Imperial commander's voice crackled through again, this time with clear panic. "All ships, full power to shields. These primitives have weapons they shouldn't possess." But it was too late. The human fighters had already disabled 2 Imperial ships, their precise strikes targeting key systems with surgical accuracy. The remaining Imperial vessels tried to regroup, but they were fighting an enemy they didn't understand. "Launch second wave," Thomas ordered. "Activate the pulse cannons." Hidden weapons platforms around Earth's orbit powered up. The Empire's scans had missed them completely, their stealth technology beyond Imperial detection capabilities. The pulse cannons fired, their energy beams coordinated by Earth's defense. 3 more Imperial ships lost power, their systems overloaded by weapons they had never encountered before. "They're trying to retreat," Lisa reported. 5 ships attempting to jump to FTL. Thomas nodded. "Let them go. They'll spread the word." The remaining Imperial ships vanished into FTL, leaving their disabled companions behind. The first battle was over, and humanity had won decisively. "Casualties?" Thomas asked. 3 fighters lost, crews ejected safely. No civilian installations damaged. Enemy losses: 4 ships disabled, 3 destroyed, 5 escaped. Thomas stood up, looking at the tactical display. The disabled Imperial ships were being surrounded by human vessels, their crews about to learn just how primitive Earth really was. "Send word to all commands," he ordered. "Phase 1 complete. Begin preparing for their return." He paused, watching the human fighters patrol victoriously around the captured Imperial vessels. They'll be back with a bigger fleet, but now they know humanity isn't helpless. We're ready for war. The Empire's first attack had failed. Their next one would be stronger, But humanity had more surprises waiting. The real battle was just beginning. The Imperial Council chamber erupted in chaos as the battle footage played. The supposedly primitive humans had not only defeated their ships, but had used technology that shouldn't have existed. Impossible. Admiral Reed slammed his fist on the table. Their planet showed no signs of advanced technology. Our scans were thorough. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, one of humanity's largest shipyards hummed with activity. Massive vessels took shape in the underwater facility, hidden from even the most advanced Imperial detection systems. Director Will stood on the observation deck, watching workers attach weapon systems to Earth's newest warship. Status report. He asked the facility's AI. Production is 30% ahead of schedule. The AI responded. The captured Imperial ships have provided valuable data. Their technology is inefficient. Similar scenes played out in hidden facilities across the planet. Inside Mount Everest, ships were being assembled in a hollowed-out chamber. Beneath the Sahara Desert, prototype weapons underwent testing. Under the Antarctic ice, massive energy generators powered it all. In orbit, Commander Thomas directed the cleanup of their first victory. The disabled Imperial ships were being studied, their crews held in comfortable but secure facilities. "Sir," Officer Lisa called out, "we're detecting massive Imperial fleet movements. They're mobilizing." Thomas nodded. "Right on schedule. They've discovered their mistake." He turned to his tactical display. "Time to show them our next surprise." Deep in the asteroid belt, hidden shipyards activated. Hundreds of warships, built in secret over 2 decades, powered up their engines. Each one carried weapons and defenses that merged human creativity with Imperial technology. An Imperial spy drone, carefully watching Earth from a distance, transmitted data back to the Empire. Its sensors showed only cleanup efforts and primitive defense preparations. The stealth systems protecting humanity's true military might continue to work perfectly. "The Empire still doesn't understand," Thomas said to his crew. "They think we just got lucky with a few stolen technologies. They haven't realized that we've been studying them for years." In the Lunar Command Center, officers watched as Imperial communications flew back and forth across space. The Empire was panicking, trying to understand how they had been defeated. "They found the tracking beacon," Mike reported with a grin. "The one we wanted them to find." The Empire's best analysts were studying the beacon, believing they had discovered the source of Earth's advanced technology. They didn't realize it was a carefully crafted deception designed to hide humanity's true capabilities. "Launch Operation Ghost," Thomas ordered. Across the solar system, small stealth ships began moving into position. Each one carried specially trained crews and advanced infiltration equipment. While the Empire prepared for a massive frontal assault, humanity would strike from within. The first stealth ship approached an Imperial supply base on a distant moon. Its human crew, supported by advanced AI systems, prepared to demonstrate another of humanity's hidden strengths: the ability to adapt and improvise in ways the rigid Imperial military never considered. "Sir," Lisa called out, "Imperial propaganda networks are broadcasting. They're calling us thieves and savages who got lucky with stolen technology." Thomas smiled. "Perfect. Let them underestimate us again." In the underwater shipyard, Director Will received new orders. "Begin Phase 4 production," he commanded. The facility's AI acknowledged, and massive fabrication units started creating weapons that would shock the Empire even more than the first battle had. "They still think we're just defending Earth," Will said to his assistant. "They haven't figured out that we can strike anywhere in their territory." The Empire was mobilizing its forces, preparing to crush what they thought was a lucky primitive species. They had no idea that humans had spent years studying their every weakness, preparing countermeasures for every tactic. "Send word to all commands," Thomas ordered. "The Empire is coming back, just as we planned. This time, they'll learn that humanity isn't just defending. We're taking the fight to them." The real war was about to begin, and humanity was ready. 20 years of preparation were about to pay off, and the Empire was about to learn just how dangerous humans could be. The Imperial fleet arrived in force this time, 200 warships dropping out of FTL travel near Mars. They formed a massive battle line, weapons charged and shields at maximum power. Admiral Reed stood on his flagship's bridge, confident in his overwhelming numbers. These primitives will learn their place. All ships, advance. His orders were cut short by an alert from his sensors officer. Sir, multiple signals appearing from the Kuiper Belt. From the darkness beyond Neptune, humanity's true fleet emerged. 500 warships, each larger and more advanced than their Imperial counterparts, moved in perfect formation. Their hulls gleamed with a strange dark metal that absorbed sensor scans. Commander Thomas stood on the bridge of the flagship, humanity's pride, watching as the Imperial fleet reacted to their appearance. All ships, combat positions, show them what we can really do. The human fleet split into 3 groups, executing maneuvers that the Empire had never seen before. Their ships moved with impossible precision, guided by AI systems far more advanced than Imperial computers. Impossible, Reed shouted as he watched the human fleet's movements. How did they hide such a force? Where did they build these ships? The answer came in the form of massive energy signatures appearing throughout the solar system. Hidden shipyards, construction facilities, and weapon platforms revealed themselves. Humanity's entire industrial might became visible at once. First wave, engage, Thomas ordered. Let's show them our real weapons. Human ships launched their first strike. Instead of conventional energy weapons, they fired strange projectiles that phased through Imperial shields like they didn't exist. The Empire's greatest defense was useless against human technology. Their shields, an Imperial officer screamed. These weapons, they're not following any known physics. The human fleet moved with devastating efficiency. Each ship carried weapons specifically designed to counter Imperial technology. 20 years of studying the crashed ship had taught humanity exactly how to fight this war. Second wave, begin infiltration, Thomas commanded. Smaller craft launched from the human ships, using stealth technology to slip between Imperial vessels. These were boarding parties, carrying special forces trained for ship-to-ship combat. On his flagship, Admiral Reed watched in horror as human forces systematically dismantled his fleet. Their tactics were unlike anything in Imperial records, a perfect blend of AI precision and human unpredictability. Sir, a human officer reported to Thomas, Imperial ships are attempting to regroup. Their formation is breaking. Launch the drones, Thomas ordered. Thousands of small, AI-controlled drones swarmed from human ships. They moved like a fluid, flowing between Imperial vessels and disrupting their communications. The Empire's rigid command structure began to collapse. All ships, full retreat. Reed ordered, but it was too late. The human fleet had surrounded them, cutting off their escape routes. Thomas opened a channel to the Imperial fleet. Your ships are surrounded. Your weapons are ineffective. Surrender now, and we will treat your crews with respect. The Imperial ships stopped firing, their crews realizing the futility of their situation. One by one, they powered down their weapons. In the Kuiper Belt, more human ships emerged from hiding. The Empire had severely underestimated not just humanity's technology, but their industrial capacity. The solar system was humanity's fortress, and they had prepared it well. Sir, an officer reported to Thomas, we're detecting more Imperial fleets mobilizing in nearby systems. Thomas nodded. Good. Let them come. Now they'll face humanity's full strength. The battle ended with over half the Imperial fleet captured or destroyed. The remaining ships fled, carrying word of humanity's true power back to Imperial space. In his command chair, Thomas watched the cleanup begin. Captured Imperial ships were being towed to human facilities for study. Their crews would soon learn that humans weren't the primitives they had imagined. Send word to Earth, he ordered. Phase 5 complete. Begin preparations for our counterattack. The Empire had thought they were coming to crush a primitive species. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant. Humanity wasn't just ready to defend itself. It was ready to take the war into Imperial space. The real question wasn't whether humanity would survive. The question was whether the Empire would survive humanity's response. The Imperial Palace on the capital world trembled as reports of more defeats poured in. Human ships had appeared throughout Imperial space, striking with devastating precision before vanishing without a trace. How are they doing this? The Imperial commander slammed his fist on the war room table. Our border defenses are being bypassed like they don't exist. Deep within a hidden base on Earth, Director Will watched holographic displays showing the progress of Operation Phantom. Status report on our stealth fleets. All strike teams reporting success. His AI assistant responded. Imperial forces still can't track our ships. Their sensor technology is primitive compared to ours. The human strategy was working perfectly. Instead of engaging in large battles, smaller human ships struck across Imperial space, destroying supply lines and communication networks. Each strike precisely targeted the Empire's weakest points. Commander Thomas coordinated the attacks from his flagship. Show me the psychological warfare results. The display showed spreading panic across Imperial worlds. Stories of invisible human ships and unstoppable weapons had destroyed the Empire's image of invincibility. Their own people were beginning to question their leadership. Sir, Officer Lisa reported, we're intercepting interesting communications. Several Imperial worlds are discussing breaking away from central control. This was exactly what humanity had planned. Their attacks weren't just military. They were designed to break the Empire's political structure. In Imperial space, another supply convoy vanished without a trace. Human ships appeared from nowhere, disabled the escorts with weapons that ignored shields, and disappeared with the cargo. The Empire's mighty military was powerless to stop them. Launch Phase 6, Thomas ordered. Release the information packets. Across Imperial communication networks, carefully crafted messages began appearing. They showed Imperial citizens the truth about their government's failures, about how a supposedly primitive species was defeating their best defenses. On an Imperial colony world, the governor watched helplessly as another defense fleet was systematically taken apart by human forces. Their tactics made no sense. They didn't follow any known military doctrine. They're not fighting like an empire, he realized. They're fighting like humans. That was humanity's greatest advantage. While the empire relied on rigid tactics and overwhelming force, humans used creativity, adaptability, and unpredictability. Every battle was different, every strategy unique. In the war room on Earth, military leaders watched their plan unfold. The Empire is committing more forces to defensive positions, General Robert reported. They're scared. They don't know where we'll strike next. That fear was spreading. Imperial worlds began fortifying themselves, diverting resources from the central government. The Empire's structure was cracking under the pressure. Sir, Mike called out on the flagship, Imperial forces are pulling back from their outer territories. They're trying to consolidate their defenses. Thomas nodded. Just as planned. They're playing right into our hands. Human stealth ships continued their hit-and-run attacks, targeting key facilities and vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. The Empire's massive fleet was useless against an enemy they couldn't find or predict. In the Imperial Palace, advisors argued desperately. We must negotiate, some shouted. These humans, they're not what we thought they were. But the Empire's pride wouldn't let them surrender. They continued gathering ships for one massive counterattack, not realizing that this too was part of humanity's plan. They're gathering their fleet, Thomas observed. All according to our predictions. Prepare the final phase. The Empire thought they were preparing a decisive battle. They didn't know that human forces had already infiltrated their staging areas, ready to strike when the moment was right. Send word to all commands, Thomas ordered. The Empire is about to throw everything they have at us. Make sure every ship is in position. The final battle was approaching, but it wouldn't be fought the way the Empire expected. Humanity had changed the rules of space warfare, and the Empire was still playing by their old book. As both sides prepared for the coming clash, one thing was clear. The Empire's desperate attempt to prove their superiority would only lead to their greatest defeat. The Imperial Palace's Grand Hall, once a symbol of absolute power, now hosted a very different gathering. Human diplomats sat across from Imperial representatives, their positions equal at the massive negotiation table. Commander Thomas stood with Earth's delegation, watching the Empire's officials struggle with their new reality. Their mighty civilization had been forced to recognize humanity as an equal power. The terms are simple. President James addressed the Imperial Council. Earth and all human colonies will remain independent. The Empire will withdraw from our claimed space. The Imperial Supreme Leader, his purple face dark with contained rage, had no choice but to agree. Human ships still held position over dozens of critical Imperial worlds, their advanced weapons ready to fire. Furthermore, James continued, all species currently under Imperial control will be given the choice of independence or continued Imperial governance. This demand sent shockwaves through the Imperial representatives. Across their territory, subjugated species had watched humanity's victory with growing hope. Many had already begun their own rebellions. Director Will, standing near a window overlooking the Imperial capital, smiled as he watched Imperial ships, now flying alongside human vessels in a peaceful patrol pattern. Quite a change from 20 years ago, when we found that crashed ship. The Imperial Trade Minister spoke up, his voice careful. What about economic relations? Our worlds have much to offer in trade. We're open to fair trade agreements, James replied. But the Empire's days of exploitation are over. In orbit above the capital, human and Imperial ships maintained their careful positions. The Empire's mighty armada had been reduced to less than half its original size, while Earth's fleet remained strong and ready. The transition period will last one standard year, the human diplomatic chief explained. During this time, all species under Imperial control will hold free elections to determine their future. The Imperial Council members shifted uncomfortably. They had no choice but to accept these terms. Humanity's tactical superiority had been proven beyond doubt. Sir, Officer Lisa's voice came through Thomas's earpiece. We're detecting celebrations breaking out on 17 former Imperial worlds. The news is spreading fast. Throughout the palace, servants and officials from various species watched the proceedings with barely contained joy. Some had already approached the human delegation, asking about possible alliances. This marks the beginning of a new era, President James declared. The galaxy will no longer be ruled by force, but by cooperation and mutual respect. The Imperial Supreme Leader signed the treaty with a shaking hand. Centuries of absolute power ended with a single gesture. On planets across the galaxy, the news spread quickly. Humanity, the species the Empire had dismissed as primitive, had not only defeated them, but had changed the very structure of galactic society. Make sure all our fleets maintain position, Thomas ordered through his comlink. Until the treaty is fully implemented, we stay ready. The Empire's representatives filed out of the hall, their once proud postures now subdued. They had learned the hard way that technological advancement meant nothing without innovation and adaptability. It's interesting, Director Will mused to Thomas. They never understood what made us different. They thought power came from technology alone. They forgot that technology is just a tool, Thomas replied. It's how you use it that matters. In the following weeks, delegations from dozens of species arrived on Earth, seeking alliances and trade agreements. Humanity had become a beacon of hope for oppressed civilizations throughout the galaxy. The Empire, stripped of its absolute authority, began the difficult process of transformation. Some worlds remained loyal, while others chose independence, creating a new balance of power in the galaxy. Send word to Earth, President James ordered as they prepared to leave the Imperial capital. Operation Liberation is complete. Begin Phase 1 of the Galactic Cooperation Initiative. As their ships departed Imperial space, humanity had achieved something unprecedented. They had not just defended themselves, they had reshaped the galaxy's political landscape. The Empire had thought humanity was helpless. Instead, they had discovered a species that would change everything. The age of Imperial dominance was over. A new era had begun, and humanity would help guide the galaxy toward a better future, not through force, but through innovation, cooperation, and the determination that had saved them from Imperial rule.